And I'm seeing in Disney's actions here a lot of BS. And here's why. Alan Horn, who was lying, by the way, Alan Horn comes up and says, oh, what James Gunn tweeted, not what James Gunn did, nothing James Gunn did, what James Gunn tweeted almost 10 years ago isn't consistent with the values of Disney, so we're splitting off our relationship with them. Really? Really, Alan Horn? He did something that isn't consistent? Let me rephrase. He didn't do anything, but he tweeted something. And that's not consistent with Disney's values. Really? You hypocrite. How about this little guy named Robert Downey Jr., who's been arrested multiple times for drugs, weapons, all that kind of stuff, has ruined TV shows and franchises he was a part of because of his behavior, and in 1996 was arrested while nearly killing people, driving while high on cocaine and heroin with a gun in the car. That's consistent with Disney values? Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet about cocaine. Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet about heroin. Robert Downey Jr. didn't put people's lives, tweet about putting people's lives at risk with a gun in the car and driving while high on cocaine and heroin. He didn't tweet about them. He did them. He did it. He puts people's lives at risk. And that's fine. That's fine. That's perfectly consistent with Disney values. Now let me be clear. Robert Downey Jr. since that time has turned his life around and has made good choices ever since doing all that kind of stuff years ago, and has made positive choices and has started acting in a totally different way. And I love the fact that a guy like that can recognize he was doing some wrong things, make choices that are better for himself and the people around him, and move forward with his life and enjoy success. I think that's great. I do. I applaud it. I think it's awesome. This is not me trashing on Robert Downey Jr., but it's trashing on the hypocrisy of Disney going, oh, James, who didn't actually do anything. He didn't physically do anything. He tweeted something. Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet things. He did things, put people's lives at risks. Or how about James Brolin? Everybody's favorite, Thanos. In 2004, James Brolin was arrested for spousal battery. He hit his wife, who had to call the police, who had to come and arrest him. Hey, Alan Horn, is that consistent with Disney values? Is that consistent with... James Brolin didn't tweet about hitting his wife. He didn't make a terrible, untasteful joke about hitting his wife. He got arrested for spousal battery. And that's perfectly fine. That's completely consistent with Disney values, you silly little goose. Again, I am thrilled for Josh Brolin, who has turned his life around. He behaves differently. He changed his life, and he's a different person now. And I am all for somebody doing that and being able to then move on and have success. I'm all for it. What about Ant-Man? What about this guy you put in Ant-Man, T.I.? He's been to jail on a number of occasions for drugs and weapons. Oh, but that's fine. No problem, says Alan Horn. That's not inconsistent with Disney values. That's perfectly fine. Mickey carries around, a key or two with a loaded Glock. No problem, everything's fine. T.I. didn't tweet about drugs and guns. He actually went to prison for drugs and guns. He didn't just tweet about them. He didn't joke about them. He did them. And here he is in 2 Ant-Man movies. And again, he has, in recent years, shown that he's making better decisions for his life. And he's doing new things now. And I am all for that. I am. I am completely all for that. Now, though, let's get back to the whole James Gunn thing. James Gunn made idiotic, stupid, what I called IMM, idiot moron mouth comments years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't physically do anything. He made horribly distasteful jokes. And here's the thing that drives me nuts. There are some people out there who are trying to make it sound like people are defending James Gunn's quotes. No, not at all. They were stupid. They were idiotic. They were distasteful. They were insulting. They were awful. They were terrible, terrible tweets. But they were tweets. He didn't carry a gun. He didn't put people's lives at risk. He didn't hit his spouse. He didn't do any of that stuff. They were tweets. I'm not defending the tweets. The tweets were horrible and stupid. But just as Robert Downey Jr., those things he did was years ago. He's made better choices for himself, and he's not that dude. Just like James Brolin has made better choices for himself, and he's not that dude. Just as T.I. looks like he's trying to make better choices for himself and grow as a person, all that kind of things. James Gunn wrote these things years ago, didn't do anything. He wrote these things years ago, made the choice for himself, saying, oh my God, these are idiotic. I shouldn't say shit like this. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to be that guy. And years ago changed. Years ago changed. And the hypocrisy I see out of Disney over this is sickening to me. Like, fine, you want to let go James Gunn? Then right now, you got to fire Robert Downey Jr., you got to fire James Brolin, you got to fire T.I., and you got to fire anybody else on your, anybody in your acting, directing, producing staff that has ever done anything inconsistent with the values of Disney, which itself has made several incredibly racist films in the past. It's that. But here's the big reason. Get personal just for a second, all right? Here's the big reason that I have been particularly, I'm not going to say obsessed, but very invested in this particular issue with James Gunn and all that kind of stuff. All right, I've never talked about this. I'm going to talk about it right now for a moment, and then we're going to move on from it. What is really infuriating to me is seeing people try to equate making horribly distasteful jokes about a subject, let's say like pedophiles, and actually being a pedophile. When I was a kid, I was sexually assaulted by a pedophile on a couple of occasions. I've never even told my family that. I didn't even really deal with it till I got to college, and then I got counseling when I was in college about it, and I've come to terms with it, and I'm fine. I am. I'm fine. I sought counseling about it, and I'm good. And it wasn't, thank God, it wasn't anybody in my family, and I didn't have it anywhere nearly as bad as some other survivors of sexual assault at the hands of pedophiles who probably endured it for years and years and years. It happened to me on a couple of occasions. I have dealt with it. It's fine. But as somebody who has been through that, when I hear anybody, these fucking morons out there, who try to equate saying somebody tweeting a joke about something is just as bad as somebody who actually did it, I want to punch them in their stupid mouths, hold their heads underwater until they stop kicking. It's just infuriating to me. You talk to me or any other survivor of pedophilia about, hey, would you have rather the guy actually assault you or written some stupid, distasteful tweet about it? I dare you to come to me face to face and tell me they're just the same thing. That one's just as bad as the other. I dare you. I dare you. And that's where a lot of people try to take this. And that has infuriated me, seeing this discussion online where people try to equate somebody and don't seem to have the mental capacity of separating somebody who just thinks they're being provocative. Really, they're just being idiotic. And let's face it, James Gunn was being idiotic. Making stupid jokes and equating that. It's just as bad as that. Shut up. No, it's not. No, it is not. And you're just making yourself look idiotic by even pretending like it's the same thing. It is not the same thing. So, yeah, I get where Dave Bautista is coming from. Look, this is a dude who said some really stupid, ignorant things. But he himself realized they were stupid, ignorant things, and he decided, I can't be like that anymore. And he, on his own, and actions speak louder than words, on his own, he decided, I'm not going to act like that anymore, years ago. He never did anything, but he made stupid tweets. Meanwhile, Disney fires him, not over anything he did, but tweets he made, but are perfectly fine having other dudes who actually physically did things, endangered people's lives, destroyed other people, all that kind of stuff. They have no problem with that. And so, yes, I will admit, I have been particularly invested in this issue because it is an abounding hypocrisy on a company that I really love, Disney. I do. But this is an abounding hypocrisy on Disney. But also because, as somebody who has experienced some stuff in my past, it has enraged me to see the way some people try to use this as something that it is not. Anyway, all of that is to say, I applaud Dave Bautista for what he's taken a stand. Because you know what? Dave Bautista isn't the biggest star in Hollywood. If Chris Pratt were to walk from Guardians of the Galaxy, he'd get 20 other acting gig offers tomorrow. Dave Bautista's not, and he knows it. Dave Bautista knows it. He knows he's not the big Hollywood star. He knows he can't just walk from Guardians and expect to get 50 other acting offers on the table. He knows that, and yet, for principle, he's like, I'm willing to walk away from that anyway, because on principle, what you are doing to this man is wrong. And he's willing to stand up for that. And he's willing to give up the biggest acting job he will ever have in his life, and maybe even sacrifice his career to publicly say, I don't care how big you are, Disney. I don't care how powerful you are. What you're doing is wrong. And I'm not going to participate in it.